It is another lovely December morning, the 2nd of December 2025. We continue with our Christmas countdown right here on Morning Cafe. 24 days to Christmas, exactly 30 days to the end of this year, 2025. What an eventful year it has been, politically and otherwise. It is what we're going to be looking at today on this great show that is Morning Cafe. My name is Freddy Ndimuli. Karibu sana. On the dailies this morning, you can see after the political heat of last week, that appears to have dumbed down a little bit, but sentiments here and there about what will happen in Nairobi, and that will be a big discussion. We'll be coming back to that. But a quick look at the dailies. When public schools leave the poor behind, that's the Daily Nation. Big story there on the front page. Same story on the Standard. No political story on the front page. Hit by Russia's war. A totally different story there. Something else on the Star, no politics. It's about the judiciary. 2 top court judges to retire as 2027 looms. A few political headlines here, we'll be looking at them later, but you see the main story has shifted, at least on the top 3 major dailies from politics. But the People Daily maintains that political theme. Is the opposition falling into Ruto's trap? Talk about political mistrust, that's the People Daily. More political headlines on the front page of Taifa Leo. Blanda nyingine ya Gachagua ni nini amesema ndikamfanya akwe na blanda. Tutaangalia hayo baadaye. Gazeti la Taifa Leo. Business Daily, employees earning above 50,000 shillings have increased to 1.5 million. Really? Anyway, we'll be back to take a look at that because, okay, I thought the numbers were higher, but again, that's a Business Daily. So to help us take a look at the headlines this morning, we'll be having James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Kwanza siasa za Nairobi zinazidi kunoga. Nani anaachia nani kiti gani, siku gani, walikubalia siku gani. Ndio hao. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Daniel Orogo, who's a political and governance commentator, will be with us alongside Wakili Joshua Nyamori. Do stand by for this conversation coming your way at about 6:30 this morning. Later on, we'll be switching gears and talking about matters education and focusing on KCSE exam, which in the next 3 years will be phased out as we transition to the CBE and the new mode of assessment. For that conversation, we'll be having Anne Moshoki, who's the head of Girls Senior School at the Kitengela International School. That conversation at 8 a.m. this morning, usiende mbali. We cross the borders and take a look at what's headlining in our neighboring countries. We start off in Uganda. Matters politics. Remember, the countdown, it's almost a month and about 2 weeks to the next general election in Uganda. So they're talking about the opposition parties and the races for MPs. They say 70-seat MP gap. So road to 2026, this is an analysis by the Electoral Commission. It shows that all 17 registered opposition parties have failed to field any candidate in 77 constituencies across the country for parliamentary polls set for January 15th, meaning that the ruling party, NRM, that's the National Revolution Movement of President Yoweri Museveni, will just get, what do you call them? Ile unaenda kama without opponents. Yes, that's what is going to happen in about 77 constituencies. Meanwhile, Bobi Wine's security in cat and mouse chase, bado wanakimbizana kule. And a very interesting picture here of the NUP presidential candidate amesimama juu ya gari na ako na ile flag ya Uganda, lakini majeshi wa serikali na polisi wamekaa pale wanamwangalia, wanasema unaenda wapi? Nani amekuambia utakubaliwa hapa? So there are security personnel blocking the NUP presidential candidate Robert Chagulani, better known as Bobi Wine, from accessing the Gayaza main road on return from Kitegombwa, Kadondo district, Wakiso, where he addressed the supporters yesterday. The story is on page 5 of this paper. So matters, campaigns and what's happening with the different parties given prominence on the front page. The presidential debate you missed. So they held a presidential debate for the candidates running for president. President Yoweri Museveni decided not to appear, but the rest appeared. And that story is on page 6 and 7 and what the candidates said in that debate, organized by the media houses in Uganda. So matters politics getting prominence. Atapale Junona, yes, we ordered crackdown on NUP supporters, says police boss. It is still about the campaigns for next year's election. It's the same story there on the front page of the New Vision, still in Uganda. The political stories are quite a number and they occupy the bigger space. Of course, Museveni and that sea of yellow once again getting a lot of space on the front page of this paper. Museveni given hero's welcome in Mbarara City. Pale juu, presidential hopefuls explain plans to tackle HIV. Yesterday was World AIDS Day, so most of the candidates took time to tell their potential voters and what their plans were in as far as countering the HIV pandemic, which remains a big issue in Uganda till today. And we have there Chagulani, Mufabi, and Omutabi there, the other candidates. Away from that, they talk about matters ICC, 180 to pin Kony. So Kony, that tribal leader who's been there forever. I think since I was born, Kony was still in the forest. So the ICC has confirmed that 39 war crime charges against him in absentia, and about 180 people, witnesses, are ready to testify against Kony. Pale chini, school set for Toto Christmas Festival, and Uganda, India mark 60 years of diplomatic ties. These are the main stories in Uganda, a lot of the politics there, and a bit of ICC. Let's cross over to Tanzania. And on the front page of The Citizen, they quote this gentleman called Othman, who's they formed this commission to probe the events surrounding the October 29 election and the protests that followed, the killings, abductions, and people still missing. The chairperson of that commission is Mohamed Chande Othman. It's called the Chande Commission. Now, he's finally spoken and says, "We will leave no stone unturned." There's a very, very familiar statement that they will leave no stone unturned. This commission, also chaired by Othman, is saying they will leave no stone unturned. And I'm just thinking, you say, "We will leave no stony unturned." Chairman of the commission formed to investigate the unrest that occurred during and after October 29 elections. He's a retired Chief Justice Othman has urged Tanzanians not to judge the commission before it begins its work, assuring the public that the team will conduct a thorough and independent inquiry. Do you think they will do that? Do you think, as a Kenyan, that this commission in Tanzania, but then again, is it our problem? I guess not. Elsewhere, Tanzania rolls out strategy to revive Tanzanites' global stature, and widening wage gap threatens inclusive growth goals. It's interesting that they're talking about the wage gap in Tanzania. On the front page of the People Daily, they're talking about the wage and the number of people in Kenya who earn about 50,000 shillings and above, about only 1.5 million. Very sad indeed. Pale juu, University joins national push to avert further youth unrest. Yes. So right, matters moving on, healing and moving on, still given prominence on the front pages of the Tanzanian papers. It is the same story on the front page of the Mwananchi. Tunajua mnachotaka. Tume ya Jaji Chande yasisitiza uwazi, yataka ipimwe kwa matokeo, yataja ya kuchunguzwa sakata la Oktoba 29, wananchi vyama vya siasa kufikiwa. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa mbele. Ananukuliwa hapa Jaji mstaafu Othman Chande akisema, kabla hatujaanza kazi, kwanza sisi wenyewe tumejiangalia wenzetu wanataka nini. Tumebaini watu wanataka uchunguzi kamilifu, usifanyike nusu-nusu, wanataka uwazi kwenye kazi. Tusonge mbele, tupone na tusonge mbele. Pale chini, vigogo wafia kwa umea CCM, sura mpya ya chomoza. Ni chaguzi za umea sehemu tofauti, na kama tulivyotarajia ni CCM tu ndio inachagua mea kila mahali. Masuala ya upinzani, hukumu kesi ya rasilimali kuamua hatma ya Chadema, ukurasa wa 3. Na Rais Samia Suluhu pia kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wanasema macho kwa Rais Samia na wazee Dar es Salaam. Gazeti la Mwananchi. Ile tume inaongozwa na Jaji mstaafu Othman Chande ikipewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti zote za kule Tanzania. Tutarejelea kuangazia magazeti ya hapa nchini punde si punde, muda usiokuwa mrefu, lakini kwa sasa tuangalie hali ya anga. Yesterday across the many Kenyan regions, we noted that there was anticipated rise in temperatures today by at least a degree in most areas. That is what we are seeing today. We start off in the eastern part of the country in Makueni, where it is 19 degrees as we speak. They say it is a cloudy day and a bit of precipitation expected this morning up until 10 a.m. But the rest of the day is going to be very sunny. Highs of 29 degrees in Makueni. This will drop slightly by about a degree tomorrow, but getting warmer by the weekend. Ikifika Sunday, 31 degrees Celsius. So ikiwa uko maeneo ya Ukambani, Makueni, hizi maeneo kama Emali, Kibwezi, Wote, very hot. Kilifi County, 26 degrees. Also warmer, slightly warmer than yesterday. They say it will be clear skies with periodic clouds, which is perfect weather for holiday goers. But this weather will continue for the rest of the week, getting even warmer at the weekend at 30 degrees. A bit of precipitation expected next week, lakini leo hakuna mvua yoyote kule Kilifi, maeneo ya Malindi, Mtwapa na kwingine ni wapi kule Watamu. That's Kilifi for you. Mount Kenya region, and we go to the Meru County today. It is quite chilly this morning, 11 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. This, I think, is the chilliest we'll see across the nation. 21 degrees, that's the highest, and this will continue. So Meru will experience very cold weather. Very low precipitation though, but chilly weather. Up north in Wajir, way warmer, 24 degrees. Meru hata watafikia hii. Now this is what they're experiencing in Wajir this morning, 24 degrees Celsius. They say it's a partly cloudy day, but the weather will get even warmer. Highs of 35 degrees, very little precipitation if any. And this will continue for the rest of the week, dropping down by a degree to 34 degrees. And this will continue up until the end of next week, which will go back up. Areas around Homa Bay where the political heat is also getting warmer, with a kind of conflict between Governor Wanga, anaitwa nani Wanga? Gladys Wanga and her deputy. Walikosania hiyo by election. Deputy alienda kusupport jamaa mwingine mwenye si wa ODM. Na boss wake ni chairman wa ODM. Naoma Gwanga is a member of ODM. Ile vita iko huko is contributing to the weather and the heat. 19 degrees currently. It'll get as hot as 30 degrees today. Quite cloudy, they say. And this will continue for the rest of the week. Unafikiria nadanganya ati Homa Bay joto imecontributiwa na siasa? Jaribu kwenda kule. You will burn. Anyway, let's come back to Nairobi. Nairobi pia is generating its own political heat, and we'll be discussing that. You've seen it in the headlines as well. 14 degrees currently. It will get as hot as 25 degrees, which is quite warm. Actually, 26 degrees. So ile jua ya leo. Because yesterday the highs were 25. As from tomorrow, we'll go back to 25. But as for today, we go a notch higher at 26 degrees. And this, once again, yes, niulize mimi nakwambia, it's partly contributed by the political heat. Tutauliza Gakuya, unafikiria tunadanganya Nairobi. Precipitation hapa sahau kabisa. Kidogo tu hapa na pale, hata Kariobangi North, kwanza huko ndio maneno inazidi kunoga. So that's the weather situation across major regions in the country. Let's take a look at the traffic situation in Nairobi. Yesterday we realized that there's a lot of traffic early morning within the CBD, maeneo ya River Road, Kirinyaga Road, Tea Room, Haile Selassie Avenue, Pale Railways. It is the same thing. You can see many people are already traveling, given the fact that schools have closed, exams zilikwisha zote. So wale watoto wote wanasafirishwa kutoka Nairobi. Watoto kama Ian hapa ni vile tu wamepata kazi. Ian is our cameraman, ndio maana endi ushago. Lakini otherwise, angekuwa hapa tao saa akipanda gari ya kwenda huko kwao, unaitwa aje? Ni Nyamira ama ni Migori? Yes, angekuwa anatafuta ile mbukinya ya kuenda huko kwao. Lakini many people, and you can see Haile Selassie Avenue getting very busy, areas around Marikiti. Once again, we are seeing another problem we saw yesterday, that the issue ile pale Pangani interchange, unlike usually, inakuwa very busy. Jana na leo. I don't know why that's happening. Probably a lot of people getting into town towards the festive season. But that's the only issue. I can see all other areas ni kama kawaida, nothing out of the ordinary as you make your way to the CBD. Yes, that's the traffic situation. Let's take a look at quote of the day.
The strongest people are not those who show strength in front of us, but those who win battles we know nothing about. Remember, every small victory is a testament to your resilience.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. And at exactly 16 minutes past 6, these are the headlines today on the front page of the Daily Nation. And as I told you, siasa ni kama tumeanza kuingia festive season. Tumemaliza by elections, tutulie kidogo. Siasa kila siku. Kuna mambo ingine inatendeka Kenya. And I thank the major dailies, at least they've moved away from politics. But there's a bit of politics here. Gachagua has rattled his opposition allies with Nairobi zoning plan. And we'll be back to take a look at that because hapo ndio shida iko. But the main story is about education. When public schools leave the poor behind. This is a report by Oxfam, which released another report yesterday, which was on the front page of the Star, about how the cost of food has gone up by 50%. This is another strand from that report talking about matters education. This report has faulted the government for failing to increase funding to match inflation. So a new report has exposed inequalities in Kenya's education system, where a majority of learners in public schools lag behind those in private institutions due to inadequate funding, teacher shortages, and congestion. We'll be talking to one teacher later on from a private institution. They tell us the difference. This study by Oxfam also revealed how many children from poor families are disadvantaged, reducing their chances at a better life. They say education is supposed to be the equalizer. Is it? Or does education actually contribute largely to the disparities between the poor and the rich? So they say approximately 1.13 million children of primary school going age are out of school, and nearly half of secondary school going students are not accessing secondary education at the appropriate age. Meanwhile, children from poorest families on average get almost 5 fewer years of schooling than those from richer families. The more money you have as a family, the better your children's progression as far as education is concerned. Pastoralists in arid and semi-arid areas have some of the highest levels of out-of-school children. Children in Nairobi have an average of 11.2 years of schooling. In Turkana, they are 5.4 years. Their free primary education capitation per learner has stagnated at 1,420 since 2003. Hata inflation yenye imehappened since 2003, which is 22 years ago. Hapa huyu cameraman wetu huyu nilikwambia hii hakuwa amezaliwa hiyo 2003. I think alizaliwa 2012. Sasa huyu hata hajasikia hii inflation vile imegeuka. Very sad. That story is actually in the inside pages. Page 4. They say it is a grim reality. Matters education and how the disparity between poor and rich families and what it means for learners. Pale juu, President William Ruto finally, he presided over a commissioning of chiefs and other administrators. He sounded a warning against the continuous trend of using goons during elections and fighting political opponents, which was witnessed widely across the country in the 27 areas that had by-elections. President William Ruto has issued a stern warning against the proliferation of political thugs across the country, declaring that the government will take firm action against those who mobilize youth to unleash violence and disrupt public gatherings. Yes, he has directed the IG of police to move decisively against individuals who hire the youth, saying he will not allow lawlessness to take root. One of those events happened on Sunday at a church service at one of the PCA churches in Nairobi, which a service that was meant to celebrate the win in Kariobangi North after the by-election. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was there, and some goons riding on motorbikes showed up. They threw tear gas into the congregation inside the church and also blocked some of the members of the congregation from accessing the church. Breathalyzers and speed guns to help cut festive season crashes. Yes, as we get closer to the festivities, kidogo nakujua kuna watu wengine wanaenda leave us from next week. Hata mkikasirika wataenda tu. So Kenya's transport sector is bracing for one of its busiest travel periods, with matatu operators and safety agencies warning of rising cases of reckless driving, fatigue, mechanical neglect, and general indiscipline, including drunk driving. So wanarudisha ile alcohol kwa barabara na speed guns inarudi. Kama wewe ni mtu wa mwenye una uraibu wa pombe na mambo mengine, usiendeshe gari tafadhali, utashikwa. This story is on page 3. If at all you thought that the use of alcohol stopped, tafuta gazeti ya Daily Nation page 3, ukwe informed. Ignorance. Hata pale ndani ya ndege watu wanasema hata pilot hafai kukunywa pombe, Hata kuna jamaa alikuwa amekunywa pombe as a passenger akarushwa nje ya ndege. Chunga sana. Matters politics, and I think this will form the bigger part of our conversation this morning about politics. I think the former deputy president has created quite a storm after his utterances about a supposed meeting and agreement between his party DCP and Wiper Democratic Movement on an alleged sharing and zoning of Nairobi seats, including governor, woman rep, senator, and the 17 members of the National Assembly positions. So a fresh storm has hit the united opposition after the former deputy president unveiled a zoning plan that would bar affiliate parties from fielding candidates for governor, MP, and MCA positions in Nairobi. Amesema tu ni DCP na Wiper na DCP. So watu wa DAP-K waende wapi? Watu wa Jubilee waende wapi? Watu wa Democratic Party waende wapi? Watu wa hizo chama zingine ziende wapi? Remember, yesterday I also saw chama cha kazi. Ule jamaa chama cha kazi alikuanga member wa cabinet, anaitwa nani? Moses Kuria has also declared that he's vying for Nairobi governor. Remember Moses Kuria, back to the Mbeere North contest, he was accused of spoiling the vote for the united opposition. Ati alikuja akaintroduce candidate, akapata 2,000 votes, yet hizo votes the united opposition only lost by about 400. So kama hii 2,000 ingeenda upande hiyo. Anyway, that's how people think. That's the Daily Nation. Kule nyuma wanasema Wanyonyi set sights on ultimate championships matter sports. That's the Daily Nation. To move on fast, and the Standard talks about the Russian war. Hit by Russia's war. In Rwaka, a family is shattered after their father, a matatu driver, was duped into traveling to Russia for a job, only to be forced into military service and killed on the front line in Ukraine. The grief exposes a far wider crisis. Africans are being swept into a covert Russian recruitment pipeline that preys on poverty and desperation. Security officials and global analysts say Moscow is targeting vulnerable populations to plug its troops or troop shortages while shielding Russians from the true cost of war. Governments are now being urged to urgently protect citizens from this deadly dragnet. The story is on pages 4 and 5. And yes, we have to give it to the Standard. They've maintained coverage on what's happening to Kenyans and other Africans who have been duped into traveling to Russia, looking for better prospects, but they end up being conscripted into the military to fight in the Russia versus Ukraine war against their will. They have even put another headline, another front page of their reporting on this, I think from last month. So it is indeed sad that Kenyans are losing their lives in a war that is not theirs. On the inside pages, Alama's infant HIV infection spike in Wajir. Now, yesterday was World AIDS Day, and I remember criticizing most of the papers for failing to focus on this story. That story is on page 3. Now, one angle that many people do not talk about mostly is about HIV infections in very young children. You know, there are people who actually grow up or who are born with HIV. When they grow up, they end up being judged and living very stigmatized lives. Yet, they had nothing or no choice in that matter. On the inside pages, and I'm looking for the politics kule ndani sipati up until page 8, and this is what shows you that we have moved on from politics. The first headline ya siasa iko page 8, yeah, inasema Ruto Oburu target MPs who backed opposition in by-elections. That's the only one. The fallout from the by-elections, kama ulikuwa wewe ni wa member wa chama fulani ukasupport chama nyingine. And that is the only political story in this paper. Hata nikifungua page 9, hakuna ingine. And they've moved on. To be honest, in as far as politics is concerned, very little in this paper. On the back page, World Athletics Awards fuel superstars campaign to shine in 2026. Yes, and the only Kenyan who won, no, not the only one, I think kuna watatu. So for the men's track, it went to Emmanuel Wanyonyi. And men's out of stadium went to Sebastian Sawe. Congratulations to the two Kenyans who actually won in the World Athletics Awards. That's the Standard. Matters judiciary and retirement and the transition in the top leadership of the judiciary. 2 top court judges to retire as 2027 looms. The exit of Justices Ibrahim and the Deputy Chief Justice Mwilu is now triggering a succession debate. These are the judges of the Supreme Court, all 7 of them. 2 of them, DCJ Mwilu and Ibrahim. Apa mwisho Justice Mohammed Ibrahim, they're retiring soon. So that means something will change before the 2027 election. Vile tumezoea ni ati hata after election lazima tuende kwa Supreme Court ndo watuambie nani ameshinda. Lakini sasa tumepiga kura, tumehesabu, tumeimba kwaya pale Bomas, tumefanya kila kitu, lakini lazima tuende tuulize hawa ni nani ameshinda. Si afadhali tuwaulize tu kabla tuanze. Anyway, they'll tell us. Pale chini, and this is another strand of political machinations, what we've seen. It's what is happening in Nairobi and the fallout from the by-elections. So here they're focusing on the fallout. Inside the battles facing Governor Wanga, she's the one mwenye wanang'ang'ana na deputy wake kule Homa Bay. Sababu one supported a candidate who was not from ODM. Alta joto sana. The story is on page 7. Court of Appeal to rule in March if abortion is a human right. Now, this is another very interesting story on the inside pages of the Star. Matters abortion, very heated debates on social media. The story is on page 3. The Court of Appeal will rule next year in March whether abortion is a fundamental human right. The cases were filed by a group of petitioners, including Ann Kioko, Christians Forum, State Law Office, Office of the Director, and wanasema this was challenging a 2022 High Court decision that held abortion to be a fundamental right but not an absolute one. Splitting hairs, but definitely a conversation that we need to be having. Meanwhile, Kakamega folks have rejected gold mining plan. Yes, yeko hapa chini. Remember today, being a Tuesday, this paper is not for sale, so you can grab yourself a free copy of the Star Fresh Independent. Different, and it comes with a complimentary MyGov pull-out for government tenders and jobs. All right. More politics on the front page of the People Daily, and People Daily has really sustained their political headlines for the past month and getting into this festive season. They don't look like they're about to let go of this. They talk about political mistrust. Is the opposition falling into Ruto's trap? Is a question they're asking. Analysts believe the outcome of last week's by-election and subsequent reaction may have exposed the president's secret 2027 project involving some of the disjointed opposition. Yes, so according to this paper, the president actually used some of the actions of members of the united opposition were engineered, according to this analyst and this paper, were engineered by President William Ruto, and that may have led to the loss in parliamentary by-elections. Sio mimi nimesema, ni hii analysis hapa. You can grab yourself a copy of this paper, fungua mpaka page 5, read more. Sikuja kusema, sijui alisema nini. Mimi sikuna kitu nimesema. How tech is changing Kenya's 2027 campaign playbook is another story on page 3 of this paper. And I can see we are almost out of time. So let's take a look at balanda nyingine ya Gachagua, gazeti la Taifa Leo. Ashtumiwa vikali kwa kutaka DCP na jamii moja yachiwe viti vitatu Nairobi mwaka 2027. So we seem to have moved on from the by-elections, and buoyed by that win in Kariobangi North, the former deputy president made a few remarks. Tamko lake kuwa uongozi wa Nairobi kuanzia kwa gavana, seneta na mwakilishi wa kike uachiwe chama chake na jamii moja. Mambo haya yamekera wengi, wakiwemo wafuasi wa mrengo wa upinzani. Wandani wa Kalonzo wakana kuafikiana naye kuhusu hilo, huku Jubilee ikisema mpango huo ni hatari kwa muungano wa upinzani. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Ukiangalia hii na usome kwa kina hii yenye ukurasa wa mbele wa People Daily, utajua. Maana Kalonzo Musyoka amesema ni serikali inafanya hii ilete mgawanyiko. Sijasikia serikali ikizungumzia haya, lakini sisi ni nani? Gavana Wanga mvua naibu wake madaraka, ashamwambia kazi ile ya cabinet, wewe uko nje. Hii ni baada ya Magwanga kumpigia debe mpinzani wa ODM kura za Kasipul. Zingine tukisema nini? Utata MC watatu wakikana kutimua Nyaribo. Remember, the Senate will later this week be considering the impeachment of the governor of Nyamira County, Amos Nyaribo. That will be covering as well. Onyo kwa madereva msimu huu wa sikukuu, tumesema alkoblo inarejea na speed governors pia. Ruto sasa kutegemea machifu kwa ustawi. Pale juu, masuala ya spoti, hatutaangazia hayo, gazeti la Taifa Leo. Tuende sasa kwenye Business Daily. Employees earning above 50,000 shillings increased 1.5. How embarrassing is this for a country? This is 2025. Singapore tunaenda, first world status, but the number of people earning above 50,000 shillings is only at 1.5 million. Employees in the pay range were 43% of new recruits. Private firms account for 69% of the fresh earners in the group. So companies and public entities created additional 206,000 jobs for workers earning monthly salaries of between 50,000 and 100,000 over the 5 years to 2024. You can read more about that, but clearly that is a stagnation if you ask me. That is a very slow growth for this one. This, for a country heading towards first world status, this should be way higher. Electrocutions hit a record 122 amid increased power theft. That matters Kenya Power Distribution and the deaths that result in tampering with electricity lines. On the ticker, reporters flagged risks in leased sugar millers, and a stable shilling cools banks' forex fortunes. That's the Business Daily. Once again, a reminder of the panelists that we're going to be having after the break to discuss the headlines. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Daniel Orogo, who is a political and governance commentator, and Joshua Nyamori, advocate of the High Court. In a few minutes' time, they will be in studio to take a look at the political headlines. Hiyo kwanza, fallout from the by-elections, na hiyo maswala ya kugawana Nairobi. Imeleta joto. Later on, we switch gears and talk about matters education, focusing on KCSE and the expected transition to CBE. We'll be having Anne Moshoki, head of Girls Senior School at the Kitengela International School, for that conversation. So meanwhile, you can interact with us through our social media pages. On X, our handle is at TV47 Digital. On all other pages, it is TV47 Kenya. And I'm reminded that I've not looked at the cartoons. Oh, apologies. Nimeangalia masaa nikasema ni kama tumeenda sana. Tuangalie wachoraji wanatuambia nini. Aha, masuala ya siasa. Hii ni The Standard. We are here, broad-based government, lakini akigeuka ni ODM to stay. The insistence that the ODM is in the broad-based government, hata sifikiri ni kitu mpya. That's a cartoon on The Standard. Another political one here is on the front, the cartoon on The Star. And we have the group, and this, if I look at these caricatures, these are the leaders of the United Opposition. They say we need to go back to the drawing board. Clearly they do. Mmoja wako hapa anasikiza ground, lakini according to a caricature of the president, anawaambia maybe more listening and less talking. Yeah, waliongea sana, wakajipiga vifua sana. And it would appear they are continuing to talk a lot more. Lakini, anyway, that's a cartoon on The Star. Matters education on the cartoon in the People Daily, Star No Stake. Hapa kuna jamaa amepigwa ngeta. Huyu ni rogue school heads, anapiga ngeta mwalimu. Ni story tofauti when it comes to school fees. Anamtoa pesa zote, anampora hadi mwalimu. Kuna fedha huwa zinaenda shuleni lakini hazifikia hata walimu. Matters education. This one on the cartoon on the Daily Nation, this one has gone towards matters immigration, especially in the United States. A caricature there of President Donald Trump. Anajaribu kuweka grills kila mahali na kufunga milango. Anasema, no bad Africans beyond this point. So who's a bad African? Do you consider yourself a bad African? Anyway, those are the cartoons. Yes, so keep it here. After the break, we take a look at the headlines, but you can keep interacting with us online, on X, TV47 Digital, on all other pages, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. It's TV47 Kenya. Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. If you need to tag me on X, at Fred Ndimuli is my handle. See you after the break.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omer every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV47. for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, one tear gas. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments. Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
It is an ugly scene that has been replayed over and over in the recent months. One where the political class and its sympathizers pursue crude method of stifling dissent. Now, no one seems safe in this goon's paradise. And Sunday at the PCA church in Nairobi's Kariobangi North was no different. And following the chaos witnessed Sunday at PCA Kariobangi North, Monday morning, President William Ruto issued a strong warning yet against the proliferation of political goons across the country, declaring that the government will take firm actions against leaders who mobilize young men to unleash violence, disrupt public gatherings and endanger the lives of Kenyans.
Tumekubaliana ya kwamba sisi ni nchi ambayo tunafuata sheria. Wale ambao wanatumia vijana kama wahuni, watu ambao wanatumika kulete fujo, kupiganisha wananchi, kulete maafa, hawa ni watu ambao hatuwezi kukubali.
There is a phenomenon that has grown in the country where, especially perpetuated by political leaders, where people, when they want to go for their meetings, they have to mobilize goons to come to cheer them. They are carrying machetes, rungus, and other things, Your Excellency. These chiefs have had a very rough time managing public events, including funerals.
This as the president directed the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, to take firm action against anyone mobilizing Kenyans to incite violence in the country.
Nishamweleza Inspector General wetu wa polisi kwamba watu hawa wote lazima wachukuliwe hatua kali za kisheria, ndio tukomeshe uhuni na mambo ambayo yanaharibu usalama katika taifa letu la Kenya.
The president's directive comes as in the wake of a surge in cases of hooliganism in different parts of the country, including the recent violent incidents during the just concluded by-elections. The most recent incident unfolded Sunday during former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's service at PCA Kariobangi, which descended into chaos after rival factions clashed outside the church compound, prompting police to fire in the air and lob tear gas to restore order.
What we saw yesterday in Nairobi cannot be condoned, And I believe that, Your Excellency, you will get results the way you directed the IG yesterday. You will get results to ensure that those who are behind carrying goons to meetings, to paint security sector and to paint these officers in a bad light shall be dealt with, and they will face the law.
This as the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has strongly condemned Sunday's incident, blasting the police boss Douglas Kanja for bias in the handling of goon incidents. Gachagua now wants IG Kanja to cut ties with the alleged police-backed goons following President Ruto's orders. Through its Secretary General Hezron Obaga, the DCP party is demanding the National Police Service to take personal responsibility for the conduct of officers deployed in Kariobangi North, immediately suspend all officers involved and release operational orders, deployment logs and CCTV footage from the church vicinity. Samira Mohammed for TV 47, Nairobi.
Ruto, I will deal with goons. President William Ruto has issued a stern warning against the proliferation of political thugs across the country, declaring that the government will take firm action against those who mobilize youth to unleash violence and disrupt public gatherings. Allow me to introduce one of my panelists this morning, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. It's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, this issue of violence is one that has been witnessed across the entire nation, especially during the events surrounding the by-elections of last week. Could this be an indication of what we should expect in 2027? That yes, violence is one of the methods that politicians across boards hope to use?
Thank you, Edimodi. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are viewing this morning's show from. And coming to the matter goons. The government should not cry crocodile tears. The government are the formation of goons, are the creators of goons. We have seen, and this is that by-election was not the only first day that we witnessed goon unleashing. We have witnessed goons in Nairobi under the watch of police, and police taking no action, but police vigilance, the goons unleashing what we call businesses of people and mugging pedestrians within the city and within the CBD in the presence of and the security and protection of the police. And therefore, does it mean that Inspector General does not know his job? Doesn't he know the job that is mandated to the police? Who allows goons to operate in the whole daylight and watch of police? Then today, should it be the first day that the president has learned that goons are unleashing and terrorizing? It is wrong, because this behavior will create a very big burden in the future. Because you have allowed goons, you have been dishing money to them, and you have allowed them to take the control, as if we are in a failed state. And this is totally wrong, because where nations are being under the watch of the goons, this is where we can call our failed state. We have seen goons. One, my good friend Nyundo from Loraka, all the way to Maraba, where he was unleashed naked by the Maraba people. What mission was he doing? Who sent him to that particular mission? It was done in the full knowledge of the government. In Mbere, Ochanda from Kibra and his team, we witnessed them being in Mbele, terrorizing in Mbele, all the way from Nairobi. Who are paying them, if not the government? The government should not come now to cry crocodile tears.
But
the government knows.
Listening to you, Bonagakuya, you seem to lay all the blame on the state and the security apparatus. But this issue of goons has been there with us from time immemorial. We remember Jeshi la Mzee here in Nairobi, and we've had Chinkororo and the rest, and they're all linked to politicians. Why are you excusing politicians, whichever side they support? Why are you excusing politicians and laying all the blame on the security agencies?
The reason why I am blaming the state is because the goons can only be taken as criminals. But when they are terrorizing the presence of police, what do we say? What do we say? What do we need to do as a common people?
Okay.
Because what is the job of police? The police are there to keep peace and control. Does they mean they are less powerful to make such control? Has they forgotten their rules or their laws in the public? In this particular case, I want to blame the state because IG is a statesman and he belongs to state. And it's like he has forgotten his duty. Because even after the goons terrorizing, he never took action. None of the goons has been ever arrested or taken to in the court process. And therefore means they are dining and eating with the state. Okay. And that has to blame the state squarely.
All right, allow me to welcome...
Other politicians, Idimuli, has to look for goons to counter. Because there's no way, Idimuli, one will face you with such kind of goon battalion, and then you fail to secure yourself. If the police now has more... No, that's why I'm saying it's like a failed state. Because it has now become, it is tit-for-tat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Allow me to welcome the other panelists to the panel. Daniel Orogo is a political and governance analyst. Karibu sana, Daniel. It's been a while before I saw you in this panel.
It's good to be back. And I'm looking forward to...
Karibu sana. And Joshua Nyamori, advocate of the High Court, I think is the first time on this show. Karibu sana. It is a pleasure to host you here.
Pleasure to host you.
Karibu Wakili. And Daniel, we just we started off looking at this issue of the use of goons to settle political scores or for political interaction. And we've seen what has happened last week. It's widespread and it's across the entire country. And yesterday the president talked about it, the IG of police talked about it, the CS in charge of Interior talked about it as well. But this is something that has persisted for quite a while. Yeah, it would appear it is one of the methods that any politician or aspiring politician has to have somewhere, a card, a violence card to use as a sick election. Do you agree that probably it is a bit off to just accuse the state of being behind this, that politicians actually should be to blame for this?
Well, good morning, Fred, and good morning to our viewers. And thank you for the invitation. So when politics becomes a matter of do and die, and like you've alluded to, for those of us who have once in a while run for political office, there are things that you must be told to have, and one of it is that you have to engage voters. You have to have resources to run that election, and third one, make sure that you have the goons around you, just in case.
It is a requirement.
Just in case is a requirement, probably in quotes, that political figures must have. And as Honorable Gakuya was mentioning, as while you're in a political terrain and you are countered by violence, then for the purposes of protection, especially when the police sometimes turns their back on assisting to provide for security for one political figures, then you realize that politicians would say now they also have to get people around them and to counter. And then I think it's not politically ethical to mobilize or to run a mock on Goonism, because when you look at that, the effects of having that, it means that there is death, there is injury, there is destruction of property. And to such, it means that even the electoral laws do not allow politicians to operate in an environment that causes intimidation and threat and life, threat to life to voters and even to politicians. But like you said, we have a history in this country. Looking at the history, what you've just mentioned from YK 92, and people who mobilized around that particular time with goons. In fact, that was one of the prescription of YK 92, because they had to counter, Jeshi la Mzee, those things that you've just mentioned, Chinkorora and the rest. And post that, you saw what happened in 2007, 2008, after the disputed elections. What really went wrong, where people are walking with bows and arrows and machetes, and the rise of Mungikis and Chinkororos that you've mentioned. So, Fred, we have, in this country, we have, a history where there is indeed, Goonism in politics, and that has led to, destruction, wanton destruction of property, deaths as such. But that you have mentioned, is it something that is encouraged? Of course not, because we envision election that is credible, free, and fair, and the existence of that kind of environment then, betrays the aspirations of us having a free, fair elections. But do the politicians...
Let's admit that even in the advent of the new constitution, and allow me to bring in Wakili into this conversation now, that we appear to have institutionalized this thing, that violence simply has to accompany our politics. We have a very progressive constitution, electoral laws that we keep adjusting and progressively trying to improve on. Yet, when it comes to matters of violence, there's very little consequence to anyone who's found guilty or even found culpable. Now the president comes out and gives a directive to the police IG. Should he take a presidential directive for the IG to take action? We do not even see these people being arraigned, despite them even being openly displayed during political contests. Where exactly are we getting it wrong when it comes to the issue of violence and political contests in Kenya?
There's a professor called Professor Issa Shivji, who once is a Tanzanian professor of constitutional law, who once gave a talk at Fungamana House that I attended, and told us, just as we were just about to get the new constitution, that it is not about the new constitution. It's about the culture of constitutionalism. So as Kenyans, we can decide to have a constitution, but not leave it. But we can decide to have a culture of constitutionalism and follow the principle of constitutionalism. Then we will be able to improve the constitutional status of our country. I think peaceful, credible elections is a key tenet in constitutionalism. And my view is that it is passing the buck to blame the government. We have to decide as a people that we want to have credible elections. We want to have peaceful elections. We want to be able to adhere to the rules about not mobilizing and arming goons. And why am I saying this? It is because goons and violence in politics have both the demand and the supply side, okay? And the government just finds itself in the middle to intervene in between the two. The demand side is that the politicians who engage in politics and want to outdo each other, when they fail to, articulate their policies and convince the people, then think that they can dominate using violence. On the supply side, that we have a youth bulge, and so many young people in the streets who have no jobs. And so we will need to intervene, yes, to deal with, in the long term, with the youth employment issue. But then politicians must behave well. And I'm actually surprised as I walked in to hear Honorable James Gakuya, who is my very good friend, accusing government of the violence in political scenes, while even when they are found to have participated in violence, they refuse to subject themselves to accountability processes. Honorable Gakuya cannot, accuse government, while when government wanted him to account, him and a few of his colleagues, to account for mobilizing violence around the 2024 Gen Z protest. They refused to hand over their phones to the police. They went to the High Court to obtain orders against the DCI. I do not know how far the case has gone. But then we need to get to the point where when you are accused of violence, it is a matter. It's a matter in public knowledge.
But anything can be cooked.
And so
anything can be cooked by the same government.
I'll give you a chance to respond.
But you cannot accuse me when I'm sitting here.
My point.
And you are accusing me negatively.
My point.
I can't allow this.
I'll give you.
I won't allow.
You have accused government.
A lawyer is a lawyer who knows the boundaries.
Yes. So
he cannot walk on that tight water.
Is that
the beauty of it is that you are here to defend yourself.
I see you as facts.
As long as you're here to defend yourself, let's allow him.
It will be important that politicians follow the law, but when they are accused, when they are suspected of engaging in violence, rather than passing the buck, they actually subject themselves to accountability processes.
All right.
Yeah.
But Bwana Gakuya, the question is here, and what Wakili is raising is the fact that you lay the blame on the states and the security agencies. Yet you also admit that politicians are the ones involved, and out of necessity, either to protect yourself or to ensure that you are not a victim in this, that you also solicit the use of some of these goons. It is the issue of accountability that we are talking about here, Bwana Gakuya, that it is not just enough to accuse the state agencies and security agencies, that politicians too need to be held to account. Do you agree that there's necessity for that?
But in the case of the example he has just indicated on the demonstrations of agencies, he wants to put facts that I was a suspect. But I was a suspect from the side of the government. But did the government give any facts? Did they give any facts? Because you can be accused with the facts. Where were the facts? Did the government put any list of facts? Yes, because that was just witch hunt. And a witch hunt is well known from the government sources. And when the government did anything which is negative, they only look for people where they can be able to pick point and transfer the blame to. And in this case, I cannot allow Wakili to stand here on a live media trying to put me to that kind of that corner, because even to date, that matter is in court. Have they produced any evidence in court? Because the matter is in court. Have they produced any evidence? You can only be blamed with the facts. Yes, and I would say there could not any single Goonism if the government is not the financier of the goons. And whose duty to protect people and their property? Is not the government. So I must stand to bring it very squarely. That if the government wants to make sure that there's no Goonism in the country, they can deal with it one day. But it cannot happen on a day rate when goons are marking people in town on a day rate, using goons, using mattocks, using what we call bars and everything, in the presence of police. Then you can tell me, Idimuli, who is responsible to protect the people and their property, if not the police? Who is the government? And who is in charge of protecting people and their property, if not the police?
All right. Yes, the issue of violence in electoral processes is what you're talking about. The president yesterday directed the IG of police, and which I find very curious, that the IG of police has to be directed by the president.
The president to give a directive
exactly.
on that should squarely be on police too, to intervene.
Doesn't the IG know his job? Surely?
We are creating a scenario in this country that is going to be normal, and I'm worried about the by-elections that we have. Most of the by-elections we have, and one of the constituencies where there was a by-election, one of the members of parliament actually fell into was attacked. But actually, what happened, that he was gunned down, and there was a lot of blame game flying out that his either counterpart or himself have been using goons, in his constituency. And Kasipul probably had been one of the bloody, and is on record. I mean, is on record one of the bloody constituencies in this country because of counter attack on that. But I think one of the things that we need to agree is that Or really the precedence we are seeing is in a situation where it's good for politicians, depending on which political aisle they are in, that in one moment, they can use goons and, no one hold them to account. And then the other side, they fall, with the government and now finds it costly and not right when such things happens against them. I think in very potential side, we should be able to condemn the use of violence, depending on wherever side we are in.
And the concern is that this by-elections were being seen as a precursor to the general elections of 2027, about 18 months out. Should we expect more violence come 2027? After the break, we'll be switching gears and talking about the fallout from the by-elections as well. Okay, fine, even away from matters violence and Goonism. And I'll be looking at what parties are doing to their errant members who did not toe the party line during the by-elections. That after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
No more excuses. It's time to rise, grind, and own your mornings. Join Coach Shadrach Omar every Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 6 a.m. only on TV 47. Full body workouts, zero equipment, maximum results. Start strong, stay strong. TV 47 Fitness with Coach Shadrach only on TV 47. Looking for the perfect way to kick off your weekend?
Pole. Hiyo ni salamu ya Mluya kabisa.
Tune in to Friday with Betty, the most exciting show on TV.
Betty, once here, guys. Betty, I don't know where this guy's going.
From the latest news and trends to unforgettable moments.
Wewe ni simpa.
Friday with Betty is your go-to show for a fabulous Friday night.
Theological, meteorologist. What is that word, Willis?
Tune in this and every Friday at 9 p.m. and let's make your Fridays unforgettable. Only on TV 47. Enjoy uninterrupted live streaming of your favorite programs on TV 47 and Radio 47 on the go with our new mobile-friendly website. Experience the future of broadcasting. Visit www.tv47.digital or scan this QR code and stream your way to endless news and entertainment. Welcome to the home of untold stories.
In her statement, Governor Gladys Wanga emphasized that the reshuffle was aimed at strengthening service delivery and to better serve the people of Homa Bay County. She reassigned Danish Nyango to serve not only as the County Executive Committee member for Roads, Public Works, Transport and Infrastructure, but to further serve as the Acting County Executive Committee member in charge of Agriculture, Irrigation and Livestock Development, a seat that was held by Deputy Governor Oyugi Magwanga. Magwanga, who remains Deputy Governor but without a cabinet docket, claimed his office was locked on Monday, raising alarm over what he termed as the unlawful closure of key county offices, including his own, the County Secretary's Office, and the Payroll Management Department. In a strongly worded statement, Magwanga described the act as unethical, illegal, and an alarming display of blatant impunity and abuse of power. He accused unnamed individuals of orchestrating the closures as part of a calculated political maneuver aimed at undermining his office and obstructing county governance. The rift stems from the Kasipul constituency by-election. Magwanga openly defied the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM party line, by backing independent candidate Philip Aroko, while Wanga, who also serves as ODM's national chairperson, campaigned for ODM's candidate Boyd Were, who eventually clinched victory.
For those who wrote off ODM because of the passing of BAMBA, I think they have now seen for themselves that ODM is the largest party south of Sahara and north of River Limpopo.
Governor Wanga has been seen to be keen to enforce party discipline in the county. A move to sideline Magwanga is seen as a consolidation of power and a warning to county officials who might challenge her authority or deviate from ODM's agenda.
I'm actually not going against her. Each and every person has his or her democratic right to support a candidate of his or her choice. The choice of the ODM candidate was not actually done well.
Magwanga's removal from the agriculture docket effectively sidelines him from key decision-making processes in the county, with the possibility of the fallout further deepening divisions within the county.
It is boiling and doing so quite nicely within the political parties, and majorly ODM. Analysts argue, Akili, that the contests that ODM engaged in were not new. They did not win anything new that did not belong to them prior to these by-elections. Unguja, Kasipul were all ODM seats. That the resultant effect is the cracks that we're now seeing. The open defiance against the party chairperson, the governor for Homa Bay, from her own deputy. That is very telling, that there seems to be a level of confidence from rebels of these parties to openly come out and say it is our democratic right to do things, not necessarily towing the party line. Do you think that this is one of the byproducts that probably we're ignoring from these by-elections?
I think we need to separate the issues. When you talk about the by-elections, I think, in my view, two formations emerged. One formation was the broad-based formation, and the other formation was the united, some people call them the disunited opposition. And that we had 24 pressings that went into election, and out of these 24 pressings, the broad-based formation won 18, and the main battlegrounds and the main seats from constituency to county, while the opposition only managed to scrap through with ward wins in six areas or something like that. So that's important. Secondly, that when you are looking at the by-elections, then in my view, the broad-based arrangement won because of the unity of the parties, and because of, in my view, the strong leadership of the president, even though the president did not go out to campaign, and that it is his goodwill that won the campaigns. My view for the governor of Homa Bay is that she has to change tact. Things are not the same. The ODM was Raila, and Raila was ODM. And that without Raila, she does not have the veil, that covered her. And that she holds that position as the governor, but also as the chairman of ODM, courtesy purely of Raila Odinga. And that with Raila out, the party mandarins might actually eat her for lunch. And that and you have heard some of them speak here and there. So that is one. I don't think she can carry forward her threats to the wire. She doesn't have what it takes. But then again,
she has already stripped a deputy of executive roles in her government.
She may, as a governor, she has a role to arrange her cabinet. However, she cannot stop the deputy by law from going to the office. She cannot lock the office of the deputy. And I'm hoping that the deputy should have gone to court or is proceeding to court to have that unlawful move annulled. And in any case, Wanga must appreciate that the reason why she managed to become governor is that Right Honorable Raila Odinga stood down Magwanga. So it is her vote plus Magwanga's vote that overwhelmed Kidero's vote. Without Magwanga, she's a pale shadow of herself. Okay? And therefore, in my view, by starting a fight with Magwanga now, who is a very well-grounded, she might not have majority of the vote, but he has a solid, loyal vote to him across the county, however little it is.
Let's consider another instance, because that was just one example of the fallout after the by-elections. In Kakamega, the Senate Majority Whip, Senator Boni Halwale, openly defied the party line by supporting an opposition candidate in Malava. Now, there are indications that once they go back to parliament, there has to be a purge, and some of these leadership positions will change. Fine, Homa Bay is one example, but definitely parties now have to contend with open defiance.
And that's what I'm saying, that you must differentiate Malava from Homa Bay. Malava is now in control of was then and even now a UDA precincts, and that the leader of the UDA is the president, and that the question is, does Wanga have the wherewithal that the president has to beat his team into the file? I doubt that she has. But at the same time, the role of the deputy governor and the role of the deputy chief whip are extremely different. But because Halwale's role is a political role, and it will be important that the UDA fraternity have ability to whip their team, and you cannot have a rebel whipping your team for you. The deputy governor is a constitutional office, and that the governor cannot interfere with. So those are extremely different. Yes.
Okay. Bonagakuya, on this issue of fallouts in the major parties, and we've seen this happening, what does it portend, even for the workings inside Parliament going forward, that there's now open defiance, despite the fact that some of the victories by UDA and ODM could not necessarily be considered new victories. They were controlling these areas before. But as a byproduct, open defiance against party lines.
It is of importance for politicians to start also shaping their future politics. And it is not long, because the head of state, as much as he understands how party lines or what we call political party acts and the rest, he went to bed with ODM because the law states very clear. The Constitution and the party act, the Political Parties Act, allows for what we call coalitions even after an election. But those coalitions has any memorandum that's alive between any coalition after election has to be deposited to the registrar of political parties. Therefore, today, anything or any partnership that is ongoing between the two parties, this is ODM and the UDA, in terms of what we call legality, it has no legality, because this has not launched. That particular agreement is not launched where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be after that particular package is agreed, has to be deposited to the registrar of political parties. This has never happened. And therefore, William, as much as he understands the law, he has gone against the law. And therefore, he cannot blame anybody else within his party who purports to work with any other party, because he opens the door for people or for him to deal with whoever feels that actually you can work together. As much as he wants broad-based is nowhere in the law. And as much as he has entertained it, he cannot lock anybody from also having another coalition with his partner. Because it is clear that one has to have one party to belong in one party at a particular time. But who is messing? It is hand of state himself. And therefore he opens the door and we don't have anybody. So he cannot come or wake up to pinpoint people when himself is in the mess and is messing the constitution. And therefore, if Halwale decides to work with DAPK, period. Yes. But if you want to punish people because of taking that action, you must punish yourself first. Because even the president is not above the law. Yes, he should equally follow the law. Yes. Instantly before he finger points anybody, he must ask himself a question. Am I within the law? Yes, or am I not? If the answer is no, then you cannot blame anybody else. You must blame yourself first. Yes. And therefore, nobody is out of order. Because the president himself is out of order from day one.
But aren't we breeding a lot of chaos, even in our political parties, that anyone can do anything without any discipline? And I'm sure you've seen the kind of criticism towards the SG of ODM. Online, even on social media, people writing paragraphs, very long ones, criticizing and saying that he supported the Kariobangi North opponent to ODM.
I mean, if Honorable Gakuya can boldly, declare that, now that the president opened the door for violation of the Political Parties Act and other instruments, a legal instrument that guides the political parties in operations and landscape, I'm a bit worried because, he openly says this. Fred, like we keep saying that there is a precedence that we have seen in this country, and it's normal. It's like normal to violate a constitution. It's normal like to go against, the dictates of, the acts of parliament, because of conveniency and because of political expediency.
Yet in a democracy, it's not really wrong to defy your party leader. You have a political
which is
right.
fine. Which is fine. There's a sense at which you can disagree with the political, your party leader, but within the confines, of the law, within the confines of political parties, and the constitution of those political parties as well. For this has, just like we have been here debating about how did we find ourselves, where Goonism is now becoming normal in politics. Again, we also, in the second question you're asking, how are we finding ourselves where the violations of Constitution and Political Parties Act becoming a normal? I would refer you to the by-elections for 2019 in Kibra, where I also took part as an aspirant. You could see by that time there was two Jubilees. If you remember very well, there was Jubilee Uhuru and there was Jubilee Deputy President, who is the current president. You mind when the Jubilee of Uhuru actually campaigned for the ODM candidate who was Imran, and even the governor for Kirinyaga, Anne Waiguru, say that they were coming as the governors for Jubilee to campaign. The other end, members of Parliament of Jubilee who are affiliated to Ruto, the like of Didmas Baraza, and Kalwale again in question, campaigned for Mariga. And you saw what happened. Again, violence and all that. And 2022 again, we saw it. Now it's breeding ground. So one of the things I'm saying is that, Mwananchi is finding himself to a situation where, the people who should be the custodians of law and custodians, of good governance are actually the ones who are in forefront of violating these particular laws. And it's becoming normal. And that's why you say when we are looking at the by-elections, what would be, it's a precursor to 2027, elections. Then we're also expecting that, we are going to see a lot of, political changes, a lot of people defying their political parties, and campaigning for those other candidates who are not necessarily from their own political parties or previous coalition. And we are not here only to blame like ODM. Like you said, in Kasipul, there's an issue about now the governor, making, some executive decisions without even asking for the deputy to show cause and explain, and that is what is required within, the political parties. And I wish that she could have actually followed the law that needs to be fast-tracked at the political parties first. If the deputy governor has been found to be violating or, have gone against the political party, which is ODM, then it will trickle down to the county. And the county say that now, since now you are in the ticket of the party, that you now violated, then now we even bequeath you now to relinquish some of these positions. You see, she's taken, an upside direction. But also, Gakuya, the party that you belong to, which you've not really been, fronting the ideals of UDA party, I think we should also be fair on the panel here.
Yes.
That even as much as Honorable Gakuya has said that, it is the president who, as a political party leader and the father of the political party, did not guide others on their deals, so others can also follow suit. I mean, you are honorable members of parliament, Gakuya, and one of the things that propel you to the positions where you serve now is that you swore to, to stick to the political parties act.
But are the lines that clear even in the parliament?
So I think those are the guidelines that we should actually. We can't ask the pot is now calling the kettle black, and vice versa. This is not allowed. Is not.
Really allowed. I want us to end this conversation about the party indiscipline because I believe it's more a political question and not a legal one. Give us that clarity as we come to the end of this so that we move on to another one. Of course, Governor Wanga appears to have opened enough war fronts for herself, but the clarity on that party indiscipline is more a political issue, not a legal one.
I think it is a political issue, and we have a lot of political indiscipline, so that I was smiling as I listened to my friend Honorable Gakuya accusing the president. And you see, I sympathize with the president that he takes all the blame, even from people who are guilty of themselves of indiscipline. Honorable Gakuya is guilty of indiscipline. He has participated in formation of a political party and goes out to campaign for a political party against his own party.
It should become normal.
He should have.
It has become normal.
Gakuya, you need to be disciplined. You need to be a little disciplined here. If you cannot be disciplined in your party, and here we listen to you, you need to listen to us. And so it cannot have a legal solution because ultimately it depends on really the power of the people who are involved. Yeah. Okay. So that is why I'm telling you that in ODM, it is Raila Amolo Odinga who could, rein in his team because he had the power to, reward and punish. I don't think Honorable Wanga has that. But I believe that the president can be able to reward and punish. Just like I think that
he has not,
Gakuya's new party leader has ability to reward and punish them in the village, telling them that they.
If you thought the by-elections of
but Fred, is it
November 27th were actually chaotic, a lot more chaos is coming up in as far as party discipline is concerned.
Where do we find ourselves to be belonging to two political parties at the same time, Fred?
Gentlemen, you go first. I'll give you an opportunity.
Thank you, Dimbori. I just want to be very clear here that Wanga knows very well where she starts in what we call broad-based, which she thinks daily, is nowhere in the law. And therefore, she cannot be the first person to throw a stone to her deputy. And as much as she recognizes that there is a broad-based, she must also recognize that his deputy has also freedom to choose. Because actually the deputy president is not there as a puppet. Therefore, the process that requires that deputy to be punished is well known. He has to throw the ball to the chamber, to the county chamber, and the county chamber should decide on the deputy but not herself. And after that, that's not the final stage. Then the other stage is the Senate to decide whether that is on the correct order or not. But he should not lock the deputy outside because that is making herself a small god. That actually the deputy president, the deputy governor, is a puppet and he has to kneel to her. That's wrong and totally wrong. Number two, we have a parliament which is not constitutional because you realize that we have minority taking place in the floor of the house, but you still find what you call the orders of the floor does not allow an opposition or the minority to have positions of chairmen in a house. But this is a mix. So it's hybrid. It's not the legal requirement of the floor of the House. Okay. And if this is happening in the grey daylight and nobody is complaining, who is this to complain that somebody is supporting a particular party or a particular party? And when the party, the ruling want to dine with anybody, they does at any given time. And therefore, there are those people who are supposed to be under the table that we should not talk or we should not take action. In fact, if I feel that, in fact, where I am, the shoe is pinching me, I have to decide otherwise.
All right.
Yes.
There should be consequences to that. Final word.
That's what I said, Fred. It's a very interesting time to, to witness what is going on in the Kenyan political terrain and actually even in the legal terrain. Like you said, in what way would you belong to two political parties at the same time? I mean, how does that happen in the political?
But it has been there for a while.
That's what I'm saying, because we normalize. The president.
UDA began while people were still members of Jubilee.
The president of this republic, I think you remember his very key address at Chatham House, when he described, by that time, the handshake government as a mongrel kind of government. I hope you remember that particular interesting.
Where is the mongrel in the Constitution?
Even the speech. But then he's the one who has really, gone against, his wishes and, and his aspirations. He said there would be no way. I quote him what he said on public record when he was assuming office. He said there would be no way where the government would cross over and work with the opposition, because that then would cause confusion in terms of accountability. But again, look at what we are staring at right now. We do not know where, even as Gakuya is saying that, where is this issue called broad-based government? Has the coalition agreement been, legally constituted and deposited at the office of the regional political parties? Right. But we also have to ask, where is this thing called united opposition? Coalition as well. Has the agreement equally been, decided?
But you have freedom to associate. You cannot.
So the difference between the legal requirement of our political parties act and behavior versus the political relevance and political context that we find ourselves. These are two issues that are very confusing and very interesting to Kenyans.
Right. And we appear to have institutionalized bad manners in our politics. And I think because now it's happening across 2 or 3 electoral cycles, it would appear it's normal to belong to 2 different political parties, defy party positions, and move on without any consequence. I want us to move on to another byproduct of the by-elections. And this were very interesting comments made by none other than the leader of the DCP party, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, about Nairobi. And it's what features on the front page of Taifa Leo. Gazeti la Taifa Leo wanaita ni blanda. Wanasema blanda nyingine ya Gachagua. Tamko lake kwa uongozi wa Nairobi, kuanzia kwa gavana, seneta na mwakilishi wa kike wachiwe chama chake na jamii moja, wakera wengi wakiwemo wafuasi wa mrengo wa upinzani. Mwandani wa Kalonzo wakana kuafikiana naye kuhusu hilo, huku Jubilee ikisema mpango huo ni hatari kwa muungano wa upinzani. It could be seen just as a political rhetoric or positioning or just chest thumping. But these statements are quite heavy. The fact that 2 parties can agree, even in the context of an umbrella under which many parties are there, that we've agreed that Nairobi, which is a capital city, governor, senator, woman representative will come here. And even out of these seats, 75% are ours. Do you feel anything wrong with that? Do you see anything wrong in such a statement?
There was a reason why Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. And we should treat him as an impeached person. I remember one of the lawyers, I think, described impeachment as, politically, you're taken to the gallows. He shouldn't even be speaking. But the reason why he was impeached were because of these bad behaviors. He's somebody who has no fidelity to the law. He has no fidelity to the Constitution. He has no fidelity to morality. He has no regard for Kenya as a nation. For him, all that matters is his ego, you know? When he paints a picture of him as so-called the king of the mountain, and he thinks he can use it to, you know, ride on everybody. So one, it is extremely wrong for somebody to even stand and speak that Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, can be, you know, owned, controlled by one party and one ethnic group, and that he has negotiated with another party that they will have full control of the party. That alone should make Kenyans not have anything to do with him. But at the same time, it portends the danger of entertaining the, you know, the kind of mandarins that we have in parties like DCP, that they continue to stand on national platforms and speak ethnicity, speak division, speak, you know, about things that will definitely create conflict. Nairobi is a county of over 5 million people from across the country who come to Nairobi to earn a living. How else do you want to tell them that all the others do not matter, only you and your people matter? Only you and your tribe matter. And that is why the Mbere people rejected the same narrative. The good thing is that even in the villages of Mount Kenya, that narrative has been rejected, okay? So my view is Kenyans should not tolerate it. Kenyans should reject it. I sympathize with Kalonzo Musyoka that in his desperation to be president, he has to, you know, stand sitting and engaging with such kind of characters. Quite unfortunate.
Right.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka has already come out and to some extent denied that there are such agreements. Do you feel that probably these comments by the former deputy president are being misread, that is being misquoted probably?
First and foremost, Idimoli, let me state on the onset that nobody should put words to the mouth of Gachagua. Where did he make that statement? I was in full hearing of his speech last week, on that Sunday. But he never mentioned anything of that kind. Media should watch themselves. Because media, you should not cook your things, and you want to put your cooking to the people of Kenya. Number two, it is not illegal if the team or the affiliate parties that you are working together with, at any single stage, you arrive to a particular decision. That is a decision of the coalition. And it is not yet there. We have not even known who is the flag bearer. So Gachagua is not a mad fellow that he can now start to say he owns the city. At this particular time, I negotiated. If even the presidential candidate is not negotiated so far. Number two, the reason why I'm saying it is not illegal. In the last election, in what we call the fraternity of Azimio, there was the same mapping in the city. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, areas where the ODM had majority, the zone was left to them. Where Jubilee was having the majority, it was zoned. The MCA that was elected in Kariobangi under DCP was the candidate for what we call Azimio candidate in the locality in the last election. Mm-hmm. He had no competitor from ODM because actually his ticket was from Jubilee. And therefore, mapping, it should be left to the parties that are willing to work together. And they have their own mechanism to do their own mapping. Mm-hmm. And therefore, nobody should come to decide on what the opposition is agreeing on terms of mapping. Because I am sure, even in what we call the alignment of the last by-elections, we all noticed that in the same Bele that we are referring to, Gachagua had no candidate. The candidate was Democratic Party candidate. In Malava, he withdrew his candidate in favor of DAPK. And also Kalonzo withdrew his candidate in Magarini in favor of DCP. They never did this because they are fools. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the kind of mappings that we are talking about. And there's nothing wrong. And even Gachagua to negotiate, to have a key position in the city, It's not wrong because it's not casted on a stone. The team will sit down and talk and agree. We are not here to talk to have an election. Election are not tomorrow.
Okay, and I hear you, Bwana Gakuya, but even within the united opposition, do you think it causes a problem when this zoning, according to the DCP party leader, is only between two parties? Where does that leave?
I am telling you for sure. It cannot be an agreement of two parties. It has to be an agreement of all the affiliate parties.
So this is another case of statements being taken out of context or being misread.
I am telling you that is not anything which comes from the Gachagua's mouth.
Okay.
Yes, somebody is just blowing it. I can tell you.
On video.
I don't know what were we watching drama or what were we watching, because I think I saw the Honorable Gachagua making that kind of statement on across the media. Probably I'm surprised. My friend Gakuya is saying that, that was taken out of context. I wish it could have been played here so that we confirm that, that was the statement that came from. But Fred, again, the other third thing, today we've just aligned three issues. It was violence, the other one was party, sticking to party guidelines. Now, this third one is pronouncement, that borders, what we call ethnic balkanizing and mobilization, which is politically a tool in politics, but is not legally, acknowledged to be one of the good electoral practices that we have, according to our regulations. Now, Nairobi is interesting again. While we acknowledge that the certain communities might be having bigger numbers compared to other communities, there is no one such community that can carry and say that they could vote overwhelmingly to have a governor in this county. You know that very well, that the complexities of Nairobi as a county, where there is a mixed and diverse populations in this country. And therefore, such pronouncement, I think the Honorable Gakuya would advise the party leader that it was not appropriate, and it was not really, capturing the aspirations of so many people in Nairobi, even those who would really want to vote DCP, who would probably want to listen to the agenda of DCP. I think that brings a lot of discouragement and balkanizing. We have seen, before even 2022, Jimmy Nambaru had tried so much to be the governor of Nairobi, and there was that kind of an idea that we could have actually Jim Nambaru organizing around, the ethnic communities, but equally trying to reach to other communities. He didn't make it. In 2013, Waititu tried to be the governor, and the idea was also rallying behind what kind of ethnic community can vote him, the largest. I think he lost to, by then, the political greenhorn that was Kidero in 2013 as well. You remember. 2022, against, because the party in the coalition of Azimio zoned Nairobi as well, as Gakuya has mentioned, which is another, tool in the political coalition cycle against the voting, the zoning. Which is not democratic, because what happens to other candidates who are potentially able, but they are not really in favor in terms of zoning. But you saw what happened with the Gathe's ticket as well, where even the Jubilee Party nudged, Azimio to try to leave Nairobi for Rigathi. It didn't work, and Sakaja came in. Why did that happen? Is canvassing around the terrain of Nairobi, which is unique. Majority of the voting bloc in Nairobi are from informal settlements and areas where there is a lot of, mobilization. Demographic shows that most of those voting areas are from informal settlements. And you saw what happened, the outcome. And so when I hear, the party leader of DCP, mentioning that, they could be, that Nairobi belongs to, may I quote, belongs to them and belongs to us because we own businesses, we are majority. That kind could be good for an audience who would want to clap and applause, but it's not good for an election that really relies so much on canvassing around
the issues politically,
and working.
Yes, the issues politically that are discussed behind closed doors, where people take out their calculators and make such considerations for zoning. Probably the only mistake that the former deputy president made was coming out in public and talking about zoning openly, for using whatever metrics. That this is a reality of politics, that behind closed doors, you have to make those considerations.
But I think that's what I was going to say. Probably you cut me short. That was what I was going to say, that across the aisle, the issues of zoning, even in that broad-based coalition, there will be zoning, and you could see what happened even in the by-election.
So the only problem is coming out.
So the only problem is coming out before and saying it openly. But I think it was something that probably could have. There's a discussion going on how, and give it to political parties, Fred. That's what I'm saying. Give it to political parties, that there's certain areas in political realities as we move to 2022. That the coalitions will discuss who is a probable candidate. Because the idea of elections is to get members in parliament. And it's about the
numbers.
Yeah, to get to the numbers. So
the only mistake we are saying is that it is a political reality that behind closed doors you have to make these considerations, you have to look at the numbers and zone, depending on whatever metrics. That the only problem is coming out and talking about it publicly, because probably it's not politically correct.
You know, when we started, you remember I talked about constitution and constitutionalism. And I said that we must aspire as a country to live and to do our things in a constitutional manner, and we must have a culture of constitutionalism. The issue of ethnic consideration of candidature in an urban capital like Nairobi that is cosmopolitan and metropolitan is unconstitutional, okay? Whatever you call it.
But you agree that it is a consideration?
It is something, it is wrong. We should have an El Molo capable of running for governor of Nairobi and convincing people. I mean, we just have, we had this guy who grew up in Kampala, who got elected in the US, and Trump has all the problems with him. We have the lady from a Somali lady who is also elected in the US. They are minorities, but they have been elected. Obama was elected because of his character, because of his brain, because of his capability. Okay? That is where we need to move Nairobi. That's why I'm disturbed that we have a party that is emerging, that its only ideology is ethnicity. And that we have candidates, some of them who even want to run for governor, but can come to TVs and look at the camera straight in the eye and tell us that what Rigathi Gachagua is doing is right and defend it. And you know, these things are said on TV, these things are said in church. We need to reject these things. And there is no way we can, you know, defend them in terms of political calculation. It is wrong.
Okay.
Nairobi is our city, and then I want to tell them, I want to look at them straight in the eye and say, I'm sitting next to Gakuya, who has been championing that ethnic narrative, and tell them Nairobi belongs to all of us, and we will not allow them to you know, ethnically capture Nairobi. Okay? They can go and do that in a small village in the mountain, but not Nairobi. Nairobi belongs to all of us.
Am I advocating ethnicity myself? I have already defended that every single coalition did the same. In Manaba, ODM did not field the candidate. They left UDA to compete. In Magalini, UDA did not field a candidate. They left it for ODM. Those were party arrangement. Do you want to tell us if this is happening from the other side, it cannot happen to the other side? And it's only wrong when it's happening to the so-called opposition, united opposition. That is when it is wrong. I am saying it happened in the last election. And the whole fraternity of Asimio in the city, they zoned it themselves. Is it wrong today? Where was Wakiri then? Did he complain about that? But today he's so furious that it is wrong. And he wants to say to the public that it is wrong. And somebody is advocating ethnicity. It's wrong. Did we say it was ethnicity by then? And he was part of Asimio himself? Did he complain? Can he only come to complain here and he want to bring an image that Gachagua is a tribal fellow? It is wrong. DStv does not belong to Mount Kenya. DStv has a Kisa candidate who won. DStv won in Narok. Is that Kikuyu area? Is that Mount Kenya? It won in Nairobi. Does it mean that is tribal? It is wrong to be always pig-pointing and finger-point somebody, calling him a tribal. It is a competition. Let us move to competition. Either they win or we win. Yes, and it's a fair deal.
Okay. As we come to the end of this discussion, there's another byproduct of the by-election that we could consider.
Yeah.
And that is now the future of people like Professor Kithure Kindiki. A lot has been said about what it would mean if he fails to deliver the Mbeere North. He delivered. Now the debate about who will be William Ruto's running mate returns to the front pages. ODM had already said that they will not go below that.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is going to be an issue?
Very, of course. I think it's going to be a consideration with regards to constituting the deputy, president in the ticket of what is broad-based government. I think this was a litmus test, and you could see that the UDA party leader was watching probably how what power and might Honorable Gladys Wanga, who has been touted to be the possible consideration for the running mate or the prospective deputy president in the coming election, and Fire would now be looked at with the presence of how strong he is. Remember, he's been looked at as the yes man, and has no political grounding in terms of mobilization. But the election, exonerated him, brought him to a point where he's also, somebody to consider. So I think, look at what is happening. I don't think that it would really be a bone of contention on the broad-based coalition, but look at what the discussion that is ongoing. After that, there's a consideration of the dialogue that was taking place on how to extend, the positions with the 10-point agenda, which is there. There's a consideration as to whether the discussion is with the prospective political heavyweights, that are very key to the broad-based government without really making a fallout. Then there's going to be a consideration of extending the possibilities of having the positions where everyone could be a Remember, Musalia Mudavadi is equally in Western Kenya, with his clout around, made sure that the by-election, the win of the by-election was on his side, that he secured Malava, which is probably his strongholds, because that was going to be an egg on his face should he have lost that political seat. So I think that kind of accommodation is going to be there. But again, what we are asking is, are we looking at that vis-a-vis what we have in the constitutional arrangement of this nation, with regards to Political Parties Act? So again, like you said, is a byproduct of what we are discussing today. The politics vis-a-vis the legality. And which one is going to take place?
I think we've already agreed that anything can work in the Kenyan situation. Everything can be fixed somewhere.
I mean, politics can be fixed within the legal issues within. Yeah.
But Mudavadi delivered, Gladys Wanga delivered, and Professor Kithure Kindiki delivered. Does it complicate matters for the president?
Not at all. Not at all. We have an able president who has, through his aura and charisma, mobilized the country around the broad-based arrangement. And you can tell that it is, holding steady even in the absence of the late Raila Amolo Odinga. So that is one. Secondly, that we have a capable deputy president in office. One, he is a professor in law. He has been a cabinet minister, has been an MP, and there is nothing that has been mentioned that can make anybody doubt that he should continue to be the deputy president until 2032. The political muscle that certain people questioned, he just proved himself in the Mbeere by-election, where, you know, the certain villagers had thought that they could stop him from pushing a national agenda in Mbere. And he pushed it, effectively defeated them. He's part of my Honorable Gakuya's friends. And you know, he comes back with a very strong political capital. That's one. Two, I have seen certain people, especially from Lunya, certain individuals, try to, you know, lay claim to the position of the deputy presidency.
What is running mate?
Yeah, for the running mate position in 2027. I would want to tell you that that is not a narrative in the streets of Nyanza. It's not in the streets
They're
of
not
Siaya.
interested in that.
The people of the lake are interested in the development programs that President William Ruto is laying out around the lake. And we are satisfied that he is on the right path. And that in the absence of Raila Amolo Odinga, the people of the lake have decided that they will vote for William Samoei Ruto. What they will not tolerate is that is certain brokers trying to stand between them and the president, and telling the president that unless you give me deputy president position, or I mean running mate position, or you negotiate with me and or us and tell us what you're going to give us, the president should just negotiate with us in terms of roads, in terms of housing, in terms of the fish landing beaches, in terms of, you know, health services. Those are all everything that we're interested in. And in those lines, the president is doing just right. I chair a caucus of professionals from the Lake region called the Ramogi Professional Caucus. And we just met the other day and issued a press conference and told our politicians, especially the few politicians who think that they can blackmail the president, that opportunity is not available. The president should engage the people directly, and we will help the president in reaching out to the people directly to mobilize. We are unlike the people who have been intimidating the president from other parts of the country. We are not giving any conditions.
What about Western Kenya? Because the president is also keen to woo them.
I want to give you,
and
you need to look at this. The president should have an opportunity to make a choice. I mean, he is the person who is on the driving seat. He knows what he needs. He has already chosen Professor Kindiki. Unless there's a problem with Professor Kindiki, and there is no problem, he should be able to continue. And then the Western Kenya, there is something that the Malava by-election approved. You see, the president's men in Kakamega were Halwale, Panyako, Malala, and a few others. But you know that they crossed over to the opposition and joined up with the so-called United Opposition and a group calling itself Tawe, and then mounted a campaign to prove a point to the president. And they would claim that they are the ones who gave the president the votes that the president got in Kakamega. And you might need to know that in Malava, the president beat, it is one of the few constituencies in Western Kenya where the President William Ruto actually beat Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, the president simply sent his PA. Go and tell the people who support me in Malava that we have a new candidate. And the new candidate that he had was an MCA who was a junior to these guys. And out of that goodwill that the president had, this MCA emerged to beat all these people that had ganged up against the president. What is it telling you? It is telling you that the president has a direct support in Western Kenya. When in Kabuchai, the speaker decided to field his own candidate and not a UDA candidate, that candidate was beaten.
Okay.
But the president's candidate was not beaten. So the president is capable of pulling numbers in Western Kenya.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. But even for the United Opposition, they will definitely be looking and watching on the president's choice of a running mate, not deputy president, as a running mate come 2027, for them to make their own decision in as far as arranging who's the top candidate, who's the running mate as well. Don't you think that, yes, this debate is indeed valid, who the president picks?
Let us agree on one thing, Idimori, that the head of state has only one calotte to dish out. because he cannot sacrifice his position of presidential candidate. That one he cannot. And therefore, he can only dish out the running mate. And whether Wakili like it or not, the political battles are fought by politicians. And we have heard Oburu on a daylight saying we are not going to take anything less than the running mate. We have all heard Wanga talking about the same. If the NDC or the NEC of the ODM decides we are not going to take anything less than this, where would be the professionals from the NEC? Are they going to buy to block the political force to make their demand? So I think he will fight his battle at his professional side, but he will leave completely the political battle to politicians. And their demand, they will bring back to Lake what they will garner. And this, probably they are not going to ask the public what they are going to do to fight for. But because obviously, they know what they need. In fact, by the time of broad-based, did Raila Odinga move to the public to ask them whether he will move to the government, he will work with the government or not? The correct position is the public has already elected representatives. Those representatives have the mandate from the people to decide the future of the ODM as a party. And therefore, they will take the cut the shot. But in fact, what I'm also telling you is that in terms of that running mate Carrot, it's also a political mathematics square. Even the opposition will be able to know, because this is what we call a political share. And that sharing, because sometimes it is being looked as if it is wrong, because obviously this is what we went through during the last government. It was a share that were discussed on a table. But thereafter, the share becomes not an issue.
Problematic.
But I will tell you for sure, corrections are discussions.
Okay.
And you sit down and agree. Even in this particular, what you call, opposition, united opposition, they must also use mathematics of the ruling. Where are you going to ditch this? So that we can decide where we are going to, to ditch. Because at the end of the day, you are looking for numbers. And to entice numbers, you must give out something to bring the numbers on. And therefore, it's a game of numbers which will work. And that will what will determine who will take the mantle, so that you can bring those numbers. And who will take the next share, so that also these numbers are required. And that is the way, and that's the arrangement. And let me tell you, even William Ruto is not going to make any mistake. It's only that the game has come to what we call par, that Dike has won, and Mudavade has won, and Wanga has won, and therefore...
and DCP has lost.
Interesting times, gentlemen. There's no time, unfortunately.
No, in the run-up, you know...
Like 15 seconds only, I need to wrap up.
Even less, in the run-up of the last election, the president had actually subjected the running mates to interviews. You remember that? And based on the weight of that interview, he chose others and left others as well. So I don't think that will really be a headache for him to decide. However, I think it's quite early to tell where the Luo Nyanza definitely votes would coalesce. It's very difficult. But could we also listen to other political parties? I mean, other candidates, you know, we have a lot of presidential
Thank you, Daniel.
We have Maraga as a candidate. We have Okia as a candidate.
Yes, oh yeah, David Maraga is still there.
Yeah, David Maraga is still there. And he's also from Nyanza. So why would we also not listen to these
and we probably should.
Presidential candidates?
Daniel Orogo, Asante Sana, political and governance analyst. Allow me to acknowledge all my panelists.
Whichever correction they will join, they will negotiate from there.
Yes. We have Wakili Joshua Nyamori, advocate of the High Court, and James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at T47 and for a very robust debate this morning about some of the byproducts that are made from the by-elections. Of course, those who won, some of them may be sworn in today once the National Assembly and the Senate resume. Meanwhile, just a look at the headlines once again, the political ones. People Daily, is the opposition falling into Ruto's trap? That's a question they're asking there. Another political one was on the front page of Taifa Leo, and we've just been looking at that. Blanda nyingine ya Gachagua, masuala ya zoning of Nairobi. These are the headlines. Yes, employees earning above 50,000 shillings increased to 1.5 million. What a sad headline for Kenya. That's on the front page of the Business Daily. The Standard also did not have anything political on the front page. Hit by Russia's war, the number of Kenyans were losing their lives, fighting a war they know nothing about. Daily Nation also did not go political. When public schools leave the poor behind, that's there on the front page. And even the Star, something that we may have considered and definitely will be a huge consideration before 2027. Two top court judges, either two judges of the Supreme Court, are set to retire before 2027. Remember, this is a court that we always turn to. Despite the entire process of the Constitution, BOMAS and everything else, we still have to go to the Supreme Court to ask them, okay, fine, who do you think won? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the state of the nation. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. After the break, Matters KCSE.